everyone, welcome back to the channel of SETINDIABIZ, where we simplify finance for startup founders. So today we're diving into a critical topic for every entrepreneur: capital structure and different legal terms such as authorized capital, issued capital, subscribed capital, paid up capital. Now this is your go-to guide for making sense of your company's financial foundation. So let's get started. First thing first, how do companies fund themselves? Simply put, it refers to how a company finances its overall operations and growth by using different sources of funds. Essentially, it's about the mix of debt and equity that a company uses to fund its activities. So, debt would include loans, bonds, or any other borrowed funds. Debt is often a cheaper source of capital, but it comes with the obligation to pay interest every year and principal amount after a period of time, which can strain cash flows. Whereas equity is the money you raise by selling shares of your company. The advantage: you don't owe anyone a fixed return, neither principal nor interest, but you do give away ownership, which can dilute your control and share the profits of your company in the form of dividends. Now we know it's really important to choose a right source of fund, be it equity, be it debt, or a mix of them. So here are 3 factors that you should keep in mind when choosing a source of finance. First one would be financial flexibility. So raising debt provides quick access to funds without giving up ownership, but it requires regular payments of interest and then repayment of principals. And equity raises funds without repayments but dilutes ownership, which can reduce flexibility in decision making because now you have to take opinion of other shareholders into account. Second factor would be cost of capital. Now, debt may have lower upfront cost in the form of lower interest rates, but it comes up with regular interest payments, making it more expensive over time. Also, even though we get tax benefits for the interest payments on debt, it might become taxing for the company. Equity, while avoiding interest, can be costly in the long run due to ownership dilution and sharing profits in the form of dividends. Third factor would be control. So, debt financing allows owner to retain full control as lenders don't have any voting rights. In contrast, raising equity means giving up some control to shareholders as they gain influence over companies' decisions. So guys, these factors needs to be kept in mind when choosing the appropriate source of fund for your business. Now let's break down different legal terms associated with equity. These terms might sound a bit complicated, but I promise you they are simple and straightforward once you get the hang of them. So we're going to learn them in 2 scenarios. One would be when you're raising funds after incorporation. Another would be when you're raising funds at the time of incorporation. So let's start with the scenario 1 for raising funds further after the incorporation. In that, we have first one as authorized share capital, also known as nominal or registered capital. It represents the maximum amount of share capital that a company is legally allowed to issue as stated in its memorandum of association. Now, this sets a ceiling on how much money a company can raise through shares. For example, if Future Tech Private Limited has an authorized share capital of 50 lakhs, it means a company can only issue shares up to that amount, not beyond. Moreover, authorized share capital can be increased with board's approval, but you would have to pay stamp duty at the time of incorporation as well as when increasing authorized share capital. It varies from state to state and is calculated on the amount of authorized share capital. Second term that we have is issued share capital. It is the proportion of authorized share capital that a company has actually issued to the public or private investors for subscription, and it must be within the limits of authorized capital. For example, if Future Tech Private Limited issues 10,000 shares at 100 rupees each, its issued share capital would be 10 lakh within its authorized share capital. Third legal term that we have is subscribed share capital. Subscribed capital is a part of issued capital that investors have agreed to purchase but not yet have necessarily paid for it. So it indicates investors' interest and potential funds coming the company's way, which can be crucial for planning growth or operations. Example would include, let's say, if Private Tech Limited offers 100,000 shares at 200 each, and investors commit to buying all of these shares. The subscribed capital would be 20 lakh, because how much are issued would be subscribed. Next legal term that we have is called up capital. Now, called up capital is the amount of share capital that shareholders owe but have not yet paid. It's the proportion of subscribed capital that the company has called upon for payment. Company has asked for shareholders to pay for it. For example, if Future Tech Private Limited calls for payment on 100,000 shares at 100 rupees each. Shares were issued and subscribed for 200 rupees each, but now company is calling the shareholders to pay at least 100 out of those. So then my called up capital would be 10 lakh. The last legal term that we have here would be paid up share capital. Paid up share capital is the actual amount of money a company has received from the shareholders in exchange for shares. So it's the real investment made by the shareholders. It reflects the financial commitment of shareholders and is crucial for company's equity base. It also used to determine the company's net worth. So coming again to the example, if Future Tech Private Limited receives payment 50,000 shares out of 100,000 issued and subscribed at 100 rupees each, its paid up capital would be 5 lakh rupees. Moving towards our scenario 2, when you're raising funds at the time of incorporation. So let's quickly go through the steps involved in raising capital at the time of incorporation. At that time, the company issues shares to its initial subscribers, usually the founders or promoters of the company. These details are mentioned in the subscriber sheet of a memorandum of association, which is an important legal document. For example, Mr. A subscribes to 50,000 equity shares of 10 rupees each. The document is then signed by the subscribers and they agree to buy the shares. After that, the subscribers deposit the subscription amount in company's bank account. The amount represents the financial commitment to the company. Once the company is incorporated, the next step is to issue share certificates. These certificates are proof of ownership, showing that subscribers actually hold shares in the company. So by law, the company must issue the share certificates within 2 months of incorporation. It's a crucial step in formalizing the ownership structure and giving the shareholders their rightful proof of investment. To conclude, authorized share capital sets the limit for potential fundraising. Issued share capital is the actual shares offered to investors. Subscribed capital shows investors' commitment but not yet paid funds. Called up share capital is the amount shareholders owe but have not yet paid. Paid up share capital is the actual money received from shareholders. Now let's bring this concept to life with some real life scenarios. Scenario 1. Let's say you're launching a tech startup. You set an authorized capital of 1 crore. But initially, you only issue shares for 50 lakh to raise capital. This leaves room for future fundraising without needing to amend your company's MOA, Memorandum of Association. Scenario 2, let's say your startup, Green Tech Innovations, has an authorized capital of 50 lakhs. You issued 10,000 shares at 100 each and investors buy all of them. So your paid up capital now is 10 lakh rupees, which you can use to fund your operations. Lastly, capital structure is a mix of debt and equity you use to fund your company. And understanding these different types of legal terms is vital for any startup founder. It's not just about raising money, it's about structuring your finances in a way that supports your business's growth, maintains control, and optimizes your cost of capital. So by mastering these legal terms or these concepts, you'll be better equipped to make strategic decisions and attract investors. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And in the comments below, let me know about financial topics you'd like me to cover next. Until next time, keep building and scaling your dreams.